New Thought Media Network. We are a global broadcast network of positive music, media, and entertainment, inspiring humanity's evolution along the journey of enlightenment and creating a world of love, peace, empowerment, and prosperity for all. New Thought Media Network. Positively inspiring.
Welcome to Ministers Talking a weekly program where Rev BRZ and Rev Z and their guests chat about current affairs, world events, spiritual principles, and any old they want to talk about. Based on the New Thought philosophy and ancient wisdoms, Ministers Talking shares a visionary perspective of the evolving spiral called spiritual living. Join us each week as we explore the emerging paradigm of life on planet Earth and beyond.
And good morning, dear ones. There we are, forgetting to turn off the placard. Dr. Robert with you back here.
Rev Z right here.
And this is Ministers Talking Shit, which means it must be a Friday morning, 7 a.m. on the Mountain Time Zone. If you're watching with us live, if you're watching on a replay, hey, that's cool. No worries there. Still glad you're with us. Just know that we can't comment the comments that come in on the replay. If you're live, feel free to comment with us, share your thoughts, and be a part of the conversation. Okay, Z, here we are. 4th of July. I'm gonna say Happy Interdependence Day. I'm gonna throw a little curveball in there. We might talk about that, but it's the 4th. It's a big holiday. And if you watch the news, it is the annual season of suburban garages blowing up. There was another one in LA last night. A garage blew up and lit 4 houses in the neighborhood on fire. And there was a rather large factory-sized explosion. I don't know if you saw the clip of that one. That one they got from the helicopter. And it was in a rural area outside of LA. So
Wow.
it was more like farmland. But this, and again, they said that was an illegal cache of fireworks as well. So careful with your fireworks out there, folks.
Yeah, I don't even know what to say about that, because it appears often to me that people use their firework, people that are not doing them at some official event like New York City's or Philadelphia's or whatever, but individuals, they use these things, it appears sometimes, as a status symbol. Look at my firework display. Look, and people are getting killed and property is getting destroyed. And I get it. I growing up, my uncles used to drive down to Florida from Philadelphia and stop through South Carolina and south of the border.
Mm-hmm.
And they would come down with friggin' trunk loads of everything, But when we set them off, I mean, it was still dangerous, but we was in the country. We were in a big old field. So if something caught fire, there was at least an opportunity to try to put it out, and it wasn't going to burn anything but some grass. But now in these urban areas, it's really not always that safe. And we got that big up. So our heart goes out to anyone that's lost property, life, or anything in regards to that on the on celebrating 4th of July.
Yes. Yeah. I did see.
And in terms of news, we got lots of news going on.
Yes, we do. Yesterday, Congress passed the big, beautiful bill, or as some are calling it, the big, ugly bill. Some are calling it a lot worse than that, even. And unfortunately, we're going to gut our social security nets. Well, not social security, but we're going to gut Medicaid by $1 trillion, I believe, is some crazy number. I mean, the amount of what some are calling waste and graft.
Yep.
A lot of people are going to financially hurt. We're just making the medical situation a whole lot murkier, if you ask me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like anything else, there's always the bitter and the sweet, the up and the down, the yin and the yang, the ebb and flow. Pick one of them contrasting terms that fit. There's some decent things in this bill, but in terms of helping some of the middle class or less, it's minimal compared to what the upper class are going to get. I mean, there's the whole thing was tax tips, right? So $25,000 in tips won't be taxed, from what I understand. I get a lesser tax. I think it's going to be no tax on that. Then for overtime pay, I think it's $12,500 in overtime that won't be taxed, and up to $10,000 you'll be able to write off interest on your car loans. And then there's the child tax credit is going from $200 to $2,200, and every child under 8 will get $1,000 put into an account that they can't touch until they're 18, right?
Right.
So those are some decent things. But when you look at cutting $1 trillion off Medicaid and making people work for it, that's going to be a challenge.
Yep. It's it feels like we're living in a space where not just the upside down, right? But there are credible reports that Trump didn't understand just how severely this bill is going to cut Medicaid. And video surfaced yesterday that somebody pulled up. I got to see it, and it's a younger J.D. Vance. I forget from when. It's a much younger J.D. Vance before he discovered eyeliner and wearing a beard, explaining how the Achilles heel and how to take out Donald Trump was to take away Medicaid. Now, so what happened to J.D. Vance here is another question I think needs to be answered. If we put together all the pieces of what we're being told, it just doesn't add up. The math doesn't math. The logic doesn't logic. We don't get to any making of sense. Your vice president has recent enough video to say this would be the thing you don't do, and yet he's pushing a bill that does that, and the president's backing a bill that does that. And again, according to some reporting, Trump seems to have been unaware. NBC reported as of July 2nd, Trump reportedly didn't realize his bill strips Medicaid. During his meeting with GOP holdouts, Trump had to be informed that his budget bill did indeed kick Americans off of Medicaid. So we got a guy who doesn't understand.
And here's a key thing. Here's a key thing. No, go ahead. I was just going to say on that Medicaid piece, right? For recipients aged 55 to 64, 900 pages. So it's going to take to go through that final bill of 900 pages. But recipients of between 55 and 64 will now have to work. Now, what if you already retired or you semi-retired because of whatever reason? Now you got to go back to work to get your Medicaid. And if you're on Social Security, if you work too much, now they're going to pull away from your Social Security. That's going to be a nice little triangle that they got to work out to get people to really understand this thing.
I want to go sit on a mountaintop. I want to get to. I'm done. I'm with you. You said it earlier, right? We're just about at that point where, okay, enough is enough. Somebody get me a plane ticket and a visa to get the flip out of this country, to use a good Mormon term there. Get me to flip out of here.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and you know, another thing in the bill, we haven't heard much about it, but we're talking about saving money and all that and everything. There is a allocation for, I'm going to round it up to $47 billion to build that wall. Haven't heard much about that, but in that bill, there's a $47 billion allocation to build that beautiful wall he talked about. That's a lot of money. Now, it's obviously it'll create some jobs or whatever at the border. But is that what we really want to do when we're trying to, build relationships in a world where increasingly we don't need more division?
Right.
I don't know.
If you look at it, you can look at it from this perspective that in a lot of ways they're trying to buy people's support. They're offering what they call tax cuts. The majority of those are going to people. The more money you got, the more taxes you get cut. The more money you got, the lower your tax rate's going to go. Mm-hmm. And yeah, those in the marginalized groups will see more money in their pocket, but and yes, it'll feel like that more money in their pocket is doing them really, really good. But when we're stripping away the safety nets, that $10,000 is that people are going to see. What's this? This one's according to the Tax Foundation. I saw a thing that, what is it? Typical family will get about $10,900 in additional take-home pay. Workers will see an increased wages of up to $7,200, and households earning less than $100,000 get a 12% tax cut compared to today. Yeah, those things are all well and good, but they seem short-term, right? That's a short-term fix to a long-term systemic problem. And I'm concerned the majority of the money is still going to go to the fat cats at the top. However, Donald's now talking about importing Elon.
You can kind of attest to that. Yeah, that ain't going to happen. I don't think that'll happen. That's just rhetoric. And although Elon will feel a little bit of it, because one of the things in that big, beautiful bill, if you will, is in the energy sector, they are ending electrical vehicle subsidies by the end of this year.
Yep.
And then on top of that, this is the scary part of it. They're cutting the incentives for wind and solar energy and adding money to produce coal. Go figure. The weather right now, you look at the weather, and weather climate is crazy, and we're going to add more to it.
Right. Yeah. Look over here so I can pick your pocket over here. Look over here so I can take your watch from this side. Right? But
which is a typical con artist. That's what a con artist does.
Yep.
Distract your attention or get you all frilly about little piddly things while I get the great big old thing from over here.
Yep, exactly. In other news, we have a new word in the world for mercenary. And that is contractor. And I'm really upset with the AP, with the Associated Press this morning. I really, really am. I didn't realize this was happening, but I saw a whistleblower has come forward, and the AP is reporting that private contractors have been firing live rounds and using concussion grenades against Palestinians at food aid distribution centers. And this whistleblower has camera footage that the AP has analyzed and has looked at, and the AP is standing behind the story saying, yes, we've had people verify that this is where this is on the planet, and this is what is going on, and this is real footage, and the audio matches, and da-da-da-da-da-da. And are American private contractors hired by an Israeli company that's contracted to hand out the food aid to the Palestinians have been using live rounds and concussion grenades. No one's been killed, although there have been some injuries. And I watched this incredibly boring report by the Associated Press, and they're not willing to say it like it is. These are mercenaries. These are hired mercenaries. They're not military. We have no verification of any training. We have no idea if some are military trained, some aren't. Some are probably not necessarily qualified to be holding live firearms in front of people. And we now hide the fact that American mercenaries are terrorizing Gaza Palestinians in the Gaza Strip who are just trying to eat.
Well, there's been this viewpoint of the world in this military industrial complex, right? But now it's military. I would say military technological conflict or construct, right? Because in this big beautiful bill, again, here's the thing that I think as a society we have to do some better research into these things that affect us, so we don't get caught up in the rhetoric. There is $150 billion defense spending part of that bill. And then there's another $25 billion for missile defense. So we got $175 billion for military.
Right.
At some point, they're going to want to use that military stuff. They don't want it to just sit on the shelf and then not be able to be used when it's time to use it, if you will. But that's a lot of money. And on top of all this, we were talking about debt reduction. And they have raised the debt ceiling to $5 trillion. So we can be in debt up to $5 trillion by doing all this spending. And you can see how all this stuff is connected. Once you begin to go and peel these things apart, you can see the oneness, if you will, of it all. And our job here is to try to shed some light on that, this idea that we talk about of oneness, excuse me, and how we have to find that sensibility in all of it so that we keep it in balance and we don't get out of whack.
Right. Yep. We can't live in fear. And we also, I believe, shouldn't live completely beyond the fear. Meaning that we just don't tell people that are in fear there is nothing to fear. We walk with the people that are in fear so they can see how it looks to live beyond fear or without the fear. To deny that the fear even exists, I think, is spiritual gaslighting at this point.
Yeah. You know, and here's another thing that happens is this stuff moves so fast that we've been conditioned with our social media of that immediacy of things, and if it's not right there, we miss it. You know, also last week, or this week rather, you know, Trump was over at the NATO, and I don't know if any of you seen him speaking at NATO, but if you haven't, go and find that. It was a poor representation of the leader of the free world, if you will, and how he, I mean, I'll let you be the judge of it. Go watch it. Go watch his speech at NATO, beginning of the week, and just look and see, is that the persona of a leader that you want leading you?
It's a good challenge. It's a good challenge, and it makes my stomach turn to think I got to go watch this man talk. Because I mean, I see enough clips. I see, back to our 24-hour news cycle, you don't always know what to believe, but they show enough that leads me to believe the man doesn't really know what he's talking about. He's just riffing. He got a little bit of knowledge and he got some ideas. The alligator thing, the alligator Alcatraz, right? If you watch that, somebody says, I think it was DeSantis, says something about the real Alcatraz trying to kiss up to Trump. It's funny how DeSantis is like the total butt kisser when Trump's in the room. It's so sappy. It's like, oh my God, dude. And he tries to kiss up to Trump with something about the real Alcatraz. And Trump's like, oh yeah, no. Way too expensive, believe me. Right? Which means he really did look into reopening Alcatraz, which obviously is not an idea that is based in any sort of actual concern or research or a good idea. It's just some shit he threw out somewhere along the line, and it sounded good, so now he plays it up, and oh yeah, maybe we should look into blah 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 blah, and it blusters us and it makes us turn away from the places where people need the most support, and then we end up with alligator Alcatraz, right? Like, if we can build a facility like that in 8 days, then why do we have such a hard time helping people after a natural disaster? Why is Western North Carolina still not fully put back together? Why are there people, if we can build a facility like that in 8 days, why do we still have people sleeping on the streets in major American cities all across this country? We obviously have the resources and the ability. We obviously have the money. And if we stop spending it on friggin' Golden Dome defense systems and put it into helping our people. We could put our people back to work. Our people would gladly go back to work. And let's just create a whole shitload of transitional housing in this country to support people getting back on track rather than flood the market with shitty fentanyl and take away their social net. Okay, I'm on one now. It's a good thing we're going to run out of time.
Yeah, but no, but that's good. You bring something up for me in the housing situation, because and it's still around the tiny house deal, right? And I don't know. I guess the tiny houses, I don't know what the average size of one of them is. Maybe, I don't know. That's a good question to figure out what's the average size of a tiny house, right? Because I was in a major city recently, and I was looking at housing prices, and I looked at a roughly 1,400 square foot, 3-bedroom, 2-bath, a little patch of green in the back, I think. They wanted $1.2 million for that.
Right.
Now, I look at my house. I at one time I had kids in here, so I needed all this house. Now I don't need it as much.
Yep.
A lot bigger than 1,400 square feet. And where do we find that middle? I mean, I'm in the process now of downsizing, trying to get rid of stuff because, you got stuff for the kids. You got stuff when you're doing these kinds of activities with the kids. And then once they leave, they don't take that stuff with them. It's still with you, right? So now, tiny housing would be perfect at some, maybe 1,000 square feet. And if you got more than that, maybe you put it in all these storage units. Have you seen all the storage units they're building around the country? My God, we got a lot of stuff.
Yep. I did see a report yesterday, the day before, here in Colorado. We're starting to end up with more housing inventory. But the median prices for homes is still astronomical in most communities. And whether you're looking at a 1,400 square foot condo type, townhouse type unit, for empty nesters such as you and I, soon to be, I trust, and others, or the single family home, the 2,200 square foot that you need for a family of 4, median prices are still seem to be out of reach for most people. They're, in some ways, it feels like we've taken away the bridge that helps people go from starter to middle, from coming out of school and getting your first starter job and living in an apartment with your buddies or your girlfriends or your friends to family style homes. We've lost those bridges that help people move along the journey. We've made them almost impossible to afford.
Yeah. 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 And I went and looked up, I wanted to see what they say the average square footage of a tiny house is 225 square feet. And they range between 100 and 400 square feet. It says you can find some at 600 square feet. Now, if you have any awareness of what that looks like, that's a small space.
It's a small space.
But you look at the contrast of what we store in the bigger houses and what's going to landfill and what we're sending to other countries for them to go through and try to find a good pair of jeans or whatever. We have gotten out of balance, which is what all the stuff we've been talking about this morning. Affordable housing could we build if we took some of that almost $200 billion on defense and moved it to housing, which would make people not be so fearful and want to take from somebody else, which would reduce the need for some of that military power, if you will.
Let's build houses. We were talking, you and I were talking on Tuesday in our other program, New Thought Today. And folks, if you're not familiar with that program, check it out on YouTube, New Thought Today, where we take a different approach to many of the conversations of the day. And one of the things we were talking about was get involved. Find a project, get involved. The obvious one that jumps to mind is Habitat for Humanity. Get out into go help Habitat in some way, build some houses. But I do believe there need to be other innovative ideas. In this conversation, I was reminded of the tiny home experiment that was started in Salt Lake City to help people transition from homelessness. So I checked in on that while we were chatting here. And while the project did meet with some major delays and it took quite a while, they are now up and running. They have an academy that operates, an educational arm that operates to help people gain the skills and to get back into the workforce. They have a number of residents in their village, in their tiny home village, and it's not just tiny homes thrown together, but they are trying to create the sense of community and a village. And we talk about it a lot, and I think we're going to continue. I know we're going to continue to talk about it. Finding places to be in community, and if it means building one, and if that community is built on an opportunity to provide social services or a leg up or a hand up or whatever it might be, even the better. Put a cause behind your community. Oh, I like that phrase. Put a cause behind your community, right? Let's not just I know my neighbors and we trade zucchini for tomatoes at the end of the season, but put a cause behind your community.
And here's a thing that you just sparked, is that this idea of inclusion and belonging and community and partnership. What better way than to find a university? Some places don't have, but they can do this anywhere and everywhere, where you can get students who are in architecture, who are in construction and design, who are in food, agriculture, to find places to start creating a relationship where the students that are doing architecture can develop more fitting houses, if you will, new ways of growing food. How do we construct? And then we get people that are in those communities to build. Now everybody's learning, everybody's working, and there's a vested interest, just like in Home for Habitat. But now we've gone beyond a single home. We've gone to a community. How do I build a community? How do I grow food and get people invested in a little bit of sustaining of their own? I don't think it'll take a lot. We got universities around here that are great in architecture and agriculture and construction material and building community. Really, we got institutions, but I know the administration is trying to cut down some of these universities for whatever reason. I'll leave that alone. Just want to put that out there. But we need to do that.
Not happy with Penn State today, by the way, either, but we'll leave that alone. So, no, I'm with you, right? And perhaps, okay, here we go, folks, right? Perhaps stripping away of the safety net will push people to start taking more active interest and doing more to support our friends and neighbors that are marginalized and at risk. This may push more people to get active and supporting each other, because we're going to see a lot more people searching for healthcare. We're going to see a lot more people searching for food. Right now we're shooting live rounds at people looking to get food in Gaza. I don't know what that's going to look like when we've got food lines and soup kitchens and people still on the streets of America trying to get food, trying to get aid. I don't think we have to get there. And I think we have enough people in America, and I believe we have enough heart in America, and I believe we have enough concern for our fellow Americans and our friends and our neighbors. And I believe we are moving away from this place of the get it for me, right? That's probably the biggest search this week. What's in this big, beautiful bill? What's in it for me, right? So many people want to know what's in it for me. And, oh, I'm going to get a tax break. Oh, I'm going to get this. Oh, this is going to be this better for me. I don't see grocery prices going down. I don't see. So perhaps burning our safety net forces us to take care of our brothers and sisters a little bit more and build community.
Yeah. I mean, because when you look at, like we said earlier, right? When you look at some of the pros, if you will, of this big, beautiful bill, there's going to be some tax relief for seniors and other people, tip workers. It's going to definitely be business friendly, right? Corporation tax are going to get cut permanently.
Right.
And that could expand research and development, and people want to do some more stuff. Okay. The border security, if that's high on your list, that'll be there. We talked about the child care relief money and stuff. But then when you look at some of the cons, the environmental rollback, they're rolling back all of the stuff on environmental safety, which we know right now. We look at this. I mean, think about it. Last week or this week, they had 12 tornadoes in South Dakota or North Dakota. I never heard of that in my life. 12 in one day. The cost of immigration is going up. I mean, they're now starting to have them pay fees in some sort of way. So it's going to be, and we've already talked about Medicaid and that whole thing. So there's definitely going to be a push and pull, as there always is. We know that. But how do we get that push and pull not to be this, but to be small push and pull as we wag along and make our way down the track? It's going to be interesting.
And so here we are. Pray, treat, and move your feet. Pray and get involved. Pray and do what the prayer says. Right? Do what your intuition says. Get involved. Be a part of the solution. Be a part of building a world that works for all. And I may not always see it. And I'm going to forever be a voice that there has to be a better way. There has to be a better way than stripping Medicaid. There has to be a better way than just wholesale. The American government right now is kind of like a garage in LA filled with fireworks. Yeah. And so duck.
You made me think about this idea. I remember, I haven't done it in a while, but I think I'm going to find a place to do it because it was fun and it could be a communal activity, but two, it helps put things in reality. And that is, every year they have these farms that have berries or fruits or whatever, and you can go out and pick and buy, at a reduced price. You can take the kids and pick blueberries or raspberries or, whatever. take your family for a fun day and go do that. You get some produce. You'll get some family time together, but you'll get a chance to see what it means to work in a field all day. You won't be there for 8 hours, I trust you. But go there and spend a couple of hours in that field picking those berries or whatever it is, other produce, to begin to see how we gotta find a balance, right?
Yeah.
They put all they put numbers out because they said, who's going to pick this fruit? Who's going to pick this produce, right? And so they did a little recession on that. But to understand what we're doing when we do this stuff indiscriminately, no one wants criminals in their neighborhood. But when you do stuff indiscriminately and you have no balance and checks of who you're sending out, it could get real dicey.
Yeah. Yep. I just say here in Colorado, right? We've got our Rocky Ford melons. When it's time for melon season, yeah, let's go out and help some farmers and help them harvest some melons, because they aren't going to have as many workers willing to do the work. And we might have to be helping farmers to put food on our tables. We'll see how it goes. All right, folks, we're going to get out of here for now, because otherwise we'll ramble on for a whole nother half an hour. And, we don't want to do that. So we do, however, invite you to stay with us throughout the day. It is another full day of programming here on the New Thought Media Network. We've got all our normal programming coming up. Sekou Writes with Get Rich 101. New Thought prayer time is at 8:15. And Morning Sip is at 8:30. Viviendo en Oración at 9:30 with our Spanish language programming. Rev Skip and the High Vibe Hour, his co-host Cynthia Breeze, are up at 11 a.m. 1 o'clock, it's The Joy Show with Reverend Barbara Jean. 5 o'clock, 2 o'clock, it's 2 o'clock or 4 o'clock. See, I'm already losing my sights here. Divine Science Everywhere is at 2 o'clock Mountain Time. And that's becoming a really, really, really good show, folks. I want to encourage you, check out Divine Science Everywhere on Friday afternoons. The Good News at 5 with Reverend Barbara Jean, and the Friday Fireside Chat with Reverend Michael. I'm sure he's going to have a lot to say about the big, beautiful bill this evening on the Fireside Chat. So stay with us. Thanks for being a part of what we're doing. And until next time, please know that we love you. We think you're amazing, and we can't wait to be with you again. But until then, we're going to wish you some peace and richest blessings. Bye now.
And thanks for listening to this week's episode of Ministers Talking. We'll be back again next week with more commentary on current affairs, world events, and any other our ministers want to talk about. And if you found value here, please share our with your friends. Until next time, peace and blessings.